This is pretty cool. Okay, it's live from this side also.
Sorry?
It's live.
Cool. Alright, let's roll.
Okay, we'll start. So today's session, right? Okay, before we start, I'll just give an introduction for those who are not from WAD and ComSec. I'm Kunal. I'm currently the chairperson at the Computer Society in the IEEE team, and today, like we just wanted to take a session on how to work as a team using GitHub, mainly because we have projects starting, and we want everyone to follow the best practices so that we all be in sync with our work without any hurdles like that. So as you can see, today's session, learning to contribute to team and best practices with GitHub, we'll see like a general flow, uh, working in local with Git to working with GitHub as well. So the first three parts cover working in local, cloning versus forking, creating new branches, and following conventional commits. And the last two parts we see about looking out for issues and creating pull requests. Okay, so what this session isn't about. Okay, so we'll not learn Git from scratch. I will share you some resources then if you do not know what it is, and hopefully everyone here does have a GitHub account and a repo as well. That's the basics for today's session. Little bit of Git, little bit of GitHub as well. Okay. Ritvik, please. I can see the chats on the other side, buddy. Okay, cool. So just a small intro about Git for those of you who might not know it. Basically, Git is called a VCS, a version control system. It's basically to keep history of all your code changes and view them with in a visualizable format. So why do we actually need Git, right? So this is one common example out there. Imagine you're working with a Photoshop file and you just finished working on it. You just name it as final.pst. Then again someone tells you do this change, then you name it final underscore one.pst. Then that goes on and on until you reach a final version over here. Okay, so in this one file you maybe had to create n number of versions for it, just so you know you can go back and check the previous editing that you've done. For one file this is okay, but now imagine a large code base. Will you do this for each and every file, each and every folder out there? No, right? This would be very tough to work with, difficult to manage and keep track of. So that's where Git comes in. It's a system that allows you to keep track of all the changes you make without having to create this separate files for different changes that you have made previously. So here it's shown, right? You can maintain a code history, you can work in different branches, you can go back to previous commits in case of some issues, and you also have proper versioning. Basically it enforces you the system to keep track of who made what change at which time as well. So it's really convenient having Git in your system, especially if you're looking into development work. Any doubts so far? Just feel free to stop in between. If you want, you can put it in the YouTube chat or the chat over here also. Okay. So let's take a look at what is GitHub, the second part of this, right? So GitHub essentially is a hosting service mainly for your code, to run the code, to automate some part of your code as well. It allows you to track bugs, it allows you to collaborate with people, there's project management tools, automation, and you also have something called wikis that allow you to have documentation within the same repository as well. So it's basically just Git with some cool features on top of it. Okay, and we can go forward with that 5 main flows that we saw, right? Going starting with cloning and forking. I'll stop at each and we'll see an actual example of how it works as well. Okay, so you have a repository. Repository is nothing but your project folder. You can go to GitHub and you can have this create a repo, which is basically your project, and then in that you can have all your folders just like normal, as you would have in local as well. Okay, so in your repo, when you're cloning it, what you're essentially doing is you're taking the repository and creating a local copy in your system. So it'll work something like this. I can just take up this one over here. There's two ways basically. One using the HTTPS way. So this is pretty straightforward. I'll open my command line. Okay, so right now on my desktop I've just got some images and all that. As I mentioned, cloning is taking the repository in GitHub and bringing it to your local system. So you just have to run one command called git clone and the URL to that repository. This will work only in two cases. Either the repo should be public, it will be mentioned like this, or it should be, and if it's private, it should be something that you have access to. Then only it will work. And the command for it is basically just git clone and the URL to the repo. Alright. And then we have forking. So forking is basically you're taking that repository and you're creating a copy of it in another GitHub account. Okay, so let's just see in this one as well. Okay, so on the top right you have this fork option. I'll just click on it. Okay, so you're taking this repository, this btech EC nodes one, and I'm telling you like let's create a copy of this same repo in the IEEE account as well. Okay, I have an option whether to select only the main branch or the other branches as well. Let's just take the other ones also. That is, I mean, it's a bit of a big repo, that's a given. Yep, so you see, so now the same repository that was under my account is now under IEEE, and you can see in the bottom it's mentioned fork from this location. Okay, so these are the two main differences. Cloning, you copy the repo locally. Forking, you take a copy of that repo and put it in another GitHub account, and that you do with the fork button. That's all there is to it. Okay, and the commands here, the git clone one, it's mentioned over here. Yep. Okay. The second part is creating new branches. Okay, so generally when you're working with Git, you will be making small commits of all the changes you make. From commit 1, like you added some new feature, commit 2, you fixed a new bug or something, and usually all these commits are in a linear format, so you can see one commit after the other. And when you're working with Git, you usually have something called a main branch, which is often referred to as your production branch, and this one is used to deploy your main code to your end users, meaning all the tested code, the properly working one, is given to your users to work with. But say we always have a bunch of issues, bunch of new features we want to add. We can't just directly keep adding it to the main branch itself without having them tested out. And if we were to put in the main branch without having them tested, it would cause a lot of side effects, which is not good for our users. So what Git allows us to do is create new branches, and in that branch it's basically like a parallel copy of your main branch, where you can do all the changes without worrying about affecting the main code. So basically you can just take a copy of this branch at this point of time and create a parallel branch, and you'll have all these commits over here as well. Maybe you fixed a bug here, you added a new feature here, and then once you're done, you just merge it back to your main branch after testing it, and your users will have access to those new features as well. okay. And yeah, so when you're working locally, it might be a bit tricky to create a branch, but it's actually not, compared to how it is in GitHub as well. Over here you can just come to the repo and you can click on branch, and you'll have the various branches that you can see that were created here. You can also create a new branch directly from here. You can maybe like put feature, and you can select which branch to uh, copy from and start making the changes. So in GitHub it's pretty easy. In local we'll take a look at how to do it. Okay, so I have this branch here. I'll just put my git status, and you can see we are currently on the main branch. Okay, so say I want to, this is like an empty project right now, there's not much setup over here. I say I want to do the setup, and but I don't want to affect the already made code in case there's some errors or something. So what I can do is I can create a new branch. Let's take a look at the command. It's mentioned here, right? Git branch, and then the name of the branch, and then git checkout to that branch. So this is one way, or there's even a shortened way for this, that is git checkout -v feature. So what this does is we want to go to the new branch, check out that new branch. That's what checkout essentially means, right? And if the branch does not exist, create the branch, that is the -v flag, and then go to that branch. Move from your main branch to the feature branch. Okay, so I can even put git branch right now. You can see that's really the main branch right now. So we'll try out the first command, git branch feature. We'll git branch. So new branch feature was created, but we are not in that branch yet, because you can see the head is pointing towards the main branch. This asterisk basically means you're currently working in your main branch and are not switched yet. So to switch it, we just use the checkout command, feature. Okay, so it gives you an option, git switch to branch feature. We can confirm it also by putting the git branch, and you can see we are right now in the feature branch as well. So the second command basically does the same thing. You don't there's not much of a difference, just a slightly quicker way of doing it. Any doubts so far? Cool. Alright. So the next one is called conventional commits. Basically, how we all read, right? When we are learning to code, we are learning this is the best practices when it comes to coding. You should use proper variable names. Looping should be done properly. All these. It's the same for Git as well. So following proper commits, proper branch naming, all these conventional stuff, which is easy community approved and easy to work as a team with, is also best practices. Is a best practice to for Git. So let's take a look at two examples. We have a normal one over here. So this is how we all generally start with. I was in the same when I started. So we just make a commit, initialize, made some changes, change the code. Like, it's not very descriptive. It's not giving an idea of what was the exact change that was made. So when you want to go back in the history, and you have to read the code instead of just reading the commit and being quick about it. But when you have conventional commits, it's basically I'll just take you there and show it to you. So it's basically a bunch of practices, bunch of naming conventions that you can put your commits and branches. And what this allows you to do is keep track of changes in terms of labels and in a very descriptive format of what the change was as well. So example, say you're adding a new feature, you generally put like FEAT colon and then a small description of what the change actually was. If you're fixing a bug, you'll put fix colon and then a small description of the fix that you put. Okay, so coming back to the code, so here is a somewhat understandable commit history. So you initialize first, then you put feed created navbar for desktop. So basically this means In this commit, there was a new feature, and that new feature was we created a navbar for the desktop view. Then another commit over here, feed made navbar responsive. By the name itself, it's very understandable, right, of what the change was. Then you have another commit called fix landing page image bug resolved. So these are the types of commits that you're generally expected to make when you're working with a team. It's not really for you, it's for everyone who's working with you to understand what the changes that have been made. Okay, I will share this website link at the end also. It's really quick, you can have a quick read as well to get an understanding of how it works. Okay, I mean, let's just take a look at live example. Okay, so we are in the feature branch, if I'm not wrong. Just a second. Okay, let's just simply add a random page over here. Okay, there'll be a hackathon page, right? Hackathon.tsx. Ignore the errors, basically just because I have to install the node module is giving that. So for now, just imagine we created a new page, and you can see that we are in the feature branch, and we want to push this to our main branch so that all the users can have access to this hackathon page. So we'll go to the usual flow. Okay, so first you need to commit these changes. Okay, so the git add dot git commit dash m, and over here you put the message using the conventional commits flow. So you just put feed added hackathon page. Okay, and to check this out, we can just do a simple git log. Scroll to the top, we'll have this whole history of what were the changes that was actually made. So see, it tells you who made the change, when it was made, and what was the exact change that was made based on the conventional commit flow if we do follow it. So once this is done, we'll just push the changes. Okay, coming back to the branch, yep, it's here. So you can see there's two branches, one was created just now, and yep, feed added hackathon page. Okay, so let's get to the next part of this. It's called issues, looking out for issues. So when working in a project in GitHub, you will have the issues tab where you can put bunch of items that you know that is to be done, to be added, to be fixed based on whatever the specific issue is, and you can assign them to people, you can add labels, you can keep track of whether it is completed or not, and whether if it's linked to other issues or other PRs. We'll take a look at what PRs is well. Okay, so it's, you just come to the repo, you can come to issues, suppose the example create hackathon page. Okay, so this is one issue. I have an option of assigning it to myself or assigning it to others as well, those who are part of this repo. I can add some labels like, is this a fix, is this a new feature, or enhancement, like that. I can link to a project or a milestone, and then I can just add a description in the body as well. And for now that's not required, I'm just going to create the issue. Okay, so you can create bunch of these issues by breaking down your project into small parts that is, you know, easy to follow along, and you can the main part being you can assign it to others, so everybody knows what they have to work on. Good. uh, Alright, so the last part is basically creating pull requests. uh, so now you've this is mainly working with forking, or usually within the same repo if you're creating a new branch, that as well. So yeah, so whenever you fork a project, you usually do it for a reason, right? You're like, there's some specific code, piece of code that is not looking good in a repo that you think you can improve. So you fork it and then you implement the change in your copy of the fork. Or if you're a part of the same repo, like you have access to it, you probably create a new branch and make the changes in that branch. But it's not available to your user here yet, right? So you have your main repo where the changes are available to the user, but what you are working on is currently in your uh, copy, a clone, or a new branch which is not available to the user yet. So in that case, what you need to do is you need to open a pull request to the original repo. Pull request basically, you're basically because you're telling the owner of that repo to pull your changes into the main repo, so that those changes can be available to the users. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can make them. Just come to your pull request tab, new pull request, and we created a new branch, right? Feature. We can select that, and you will have an option here pointing, basically, um, which branch you want to merge into the main branch. It can usually be other branches as well, but default you'll see this stuff only. And you'll have an option to compare across forks. This is when you have forked the main repo to your own account. But in this case, we are just working within the same repo in a separate branch. Alright, so it's just one small page we added. We can just create the pull request. Then we have options over here as well. Who to assign, what are the labels, and one cool part is GitHub allows this cool phrases that will automatically be detected and linked to the pull request. So it will take the hackathon issue we just created and link it to the added hackathon page pull request. Okay, so just create this. Good. You see, the create hackathon issue is automatically linked because we use this specific phrase over here, and usually it will not be you who will be reviewing the code. It will be the code owner. The code owner, he can come to your files, see what changes you did. He can mark them as viewed, and then he can approve them later. Since this is my own pull request, I can't approve it. But if it was somebody else, I'd have an option to take a look, approve, give some comments to improve. Okay. Once all is good, assuming there is no errors or anything, it's as simple as just merging pull request and just confirm the merge. This is from the code owner side, not from your side. You just have to put a pull request after the change you done and wait for any further review or for the pull request to be confirmed. Okay, so if we go back to the issues, it will not be open anymore because we just closed it. That's the cool thing about GitHub. When you link a issue to a pull request, and if the pull request is approved, the issue also will be closed. And now we'll come to the main branch and come to pages. You'll see the hackathon, right? Yep, I mean, these were the main things. The general flow that you need to know when working with GitHub as a team. Basically, whenever you're assigned an issue, always create a new branch for it. Work locally first, then push it to your branch in GitHub, and then open a pull request. That's the general flow we are looking for all the projects we'll be working in the coming days. Any doubts?
No, no doubts. You can continue.
I mean, I just found this reel. This is basically what happens if you don't work as a team. I mean, if you don't follow the proper flow that we just talked about. Guys, please follow proper conventional commits. There will be merge conflicts, but don't worry about that. Cool. I mean, that was it for this session. You guys have any doubts? That was a really short one. I mean, GitLab, please. I don't have much experience. GitLab. I mean, it's pretty much the same. GitLab is similar to GitHub. You can. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there's not much difference like between GitHub and GitLab. Like working with the terminal, we just copy paste the HTTPS link from GitLab instead of GitHub, and then clone the and do everything.
Yeah, the flow is
Very the same.
essentially the same.
Yeah.
I guess GitLab is more of an open source version of GitHub, so you have a bit more access to a few features. No, I have GitLab account for free, right? GitLab. I mean, it's the same stuff. Like you have the projects issues. Projects are basically your repos. Snippets are basically your gist. GitHub gist. More or less the same stuff. Anything else you guys want to discuss about? Okay, how to hack GitHub using HTML. You can hack GitHub using HTML query. Any doubts? I mean, just feel free to drop in the chat or unmute. But I will share this escalator diagram. I mean, not the. I'll share it in parts because whole thing was coming a bit blurry because it's too big. Oh, so you have the Q&A option. Wait, is the live stream voice better or bad?
It's
I
better.
don't know, like I muted that one.
Okay.
But
It's
that
quite
live
better,
stream is
actually.
delayed by a minute, so
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
does that intentionally, right?
No, I put low latency deliberately because my internet
Oh,
sucks.
okay. Okay, so that helps with the buffering.
Yeah.
Okay, so OBS is capturing your screen and it's feeding it to two different applications.
No, OBS is taking to the to YouTube, to the IEEE account, and from there,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
I had to link the YouTube account and put the RSS keys on something, and then it worked. Streaming is cool.
Wait, how many viewers are there currently?
I can see. One second. The maximum we had was 4 over there. Currently, there is 1.
We need to ask them to put it up in Instagram.
Yeah. Maybe let's end this broadcast.
Yep.
I mean, should we do that the YouTube way?
Which one?
The YouTube way of ending videos.
Like, subscribe, and
Guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And special thanks to our sponsors, Raid Shadow Legends.
wait, what?
The old YouTube. Everybody sponsored Raid Shadow. Was sponsored by them.
Now it's not VPN, na?
Yeah, now it's not VPN. Okay, let's end this.